Hello, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all the wonderful things. Listen, y'all, it is Wednesday. It's 9 a.m. on the East Coast. So, y'all know what time it is. It is time for LinkedIn Live with Nana. And I am so excited because we are bringing Women's History Month to a close. And in case y'all have not noticed, I have been having some phenomenal Black women joining me on these LinkedIn Lives for the past 2 months now, Black History Month and Women's History Month. And so this fabulous young woman you see on the screen right here is just another in the string. And I'm going to introduce her properly in just a moment. But you all already know, if you are here, if you are joining us, pop in the chat, drop in, say good morning. Let us know where you are watching or listening from. And y'all already know, if you're catching this on the replay, drop in replay because we love to see that too. All right. So as y'all start trickling in, I am going to kick things off by introducing this woman that you see on the screen, Anika Davis, Dr. Anika Davis. Let me put that whole entire respect on the name. Um, so let me just give you all a little snippet about this phenomenal woman right here. Dr. Anika Davis is an award winning organizational psychologist and CEO of Winning Results, an organizational development consultancy, and COO/co-founder of Core Insights, an education technology company. Did y'all just see how many things the woman is doing in the first sentence? Let's keep it going. With over 2 decades of experience in the field of organizational psychology, Dr. Davis has a successful career in organizational behavior and culture, learning and development, coaching, and employee experience. She excels at working cross functionally at all levels to help organizations improve their performance and develop a culture of engagement, learning, and growth. So, as the CEO of Winning Results, okay, her organizational development consultancy, because let's break that down. Dr. Davis is responsible for leading the consultancy's efforts to help organizations improve their performance by aligning their goal strategies and people to achieve results. At Core Insights, the other company that she co-founded, she is responsible for leading the development of innovative ed tech solutions that use learning engineering and learning sciences to improve K through 5 teacher professional development. I love that. I don't think I knew that. I love this. See, I love learning about people in this way.
Yes.
She holds a BS in psychology from Duke University, an MA in industrial organizational psychology from Argus University, and an ED. Is this, make sure I get this right, a doctorate? Is this the doctorate?
Doctorate of
in,
Education.
Doctorate in Leadership and Learning in Organizations from Vanderbilt. She's also a certified KAI practitioner. She's going to tell me what that is in a second. She is a thought leader in the field of organizational psychology, clearly, and she is a sought after keynote speaker for her ability to connect with audiences and deliver actionable insights and strategies for creating high performing organizations. Y'all, I could just be done. We could just end it right there. But let's clap it up for Anika Davis. I am so excited. Oh my gosh. The wealth of your background.
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. But I just want to backpedal just a moment before we talk about my journey. And first of all, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so glad you talked about the amazing women that you have had on here for the last, like you said, couple of months. And every time you do a live, Nana, whether you are giving us tips and info and snippets on how to get ourselves together, the women that you have had, Heather Dowdy, Portia, Janine, Lapora, and anybody else who I've missed your names, you all have been phenomenal and marked my life. And for me to sit in this seat and spend this hour with you, with our audience, and share is phenomenal. I don't take it lightly. So I'm excited to bless the people today and share and be open.
Yes. Oh, the thank you. Thank you for the flowers, for
Yeah.
giving those women their flowers, because you are right there, right along with them.
Yeah.
And I love this because, we've had a number of conversations, and most recently, we were chatting just as women, black women, our careers, etc. And we talked a lot about this notion of perception and perfection,
Yes.
right? And how much this can just be something that just encapsulate so
Yes.
much of what we do, and in some cases can hold us back.
Hmm.
And so that led us to have this conversation around how do we break out of this need for having perfection all the time, right? And so sometimes we often might call that the need to like having it all together,
Yes.
right? I got to have it all together. Tell us a little bit about you and even that notion of having it all together. How did that show up for you? And if it did, how did that show up for you in your career and in your life?
Oh, wow. I mean, we only have an hour and we got other questions. So, first of all, let's go back in history just a little bit and I'll talk about my life. I'm Gen X. I was raised, of course, by my mom and dad, but my grandparents came from the South, in the 40s during the Great Migration up north.
Mm,
So there was always this, my maternal grandmother, everything had to be on point. Your hair had to be, remember those days with the straightening comb and hold
huh?
you in all,
Sure
your hair
do.
had to look a certain way. And when you went out in public, your Easter speech had to be just so. And grandma, in her way, because she wanted to make sure that we had every opportunity, grandma and grandpa, right?
Right.
So when I began to think about, where did this really come from? Because I'm in a stage and a phase of my life. I'm not going to call it middle age. I'm not going to say, I'm going to call it introspection and reflection, right?
I like that.
Where I'm looking at, why do I behave the way I do? Where did I pick up these behaviors? And if they serve me, then let's continue forward. But if they don't, I need to leave some things by the wayside. Right, right.
Mm,
So
mm-hmm.
grandma, much love to her, she was teaching us what she felt we needed to know at that time, but we're in such a different place. Think about natural hair.
Yeah.
I have, my hair is natural, but
Mhm.
sometimes I wear it, sometimes I don't. Because think about it. Some days I remember you had, I think it was Nikisha Hicks, and she said Virginia shows up one way one day, and it's just like, and I struggle with that because it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
it's not going to be perfect every day. It's not going to look the same way. So how do I reconcile that, right?
Right. Right.
So just thinking about my upbringing, thinking about when I got in these academic circles,
Mm-hmm.
even most recently at the doctoral level, nobody wanted to show up in class and act like they didn't have the answer, or they didn't know, or they weren't polished. It was
Mm.
this, let me give you the persona or the facade that I am all put together because I'm doing this. And maybe that'll hide what's really going on inside for many people, many people.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean,
Mhm.
you hit on so many gems. Ayana, hey Ayana, how you doing? She said yes to the era of introspection and reflection.
Yes.
That is a whole entire gem drop.
Yes.
Um, and I loved how you, in telling your story, you can see just that, how you were looking back at your upbringing with your grandparents. And I remember those days. I mean, Easter's right around the corner.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I remember so vividly. It was like, okay, so here we are, and it is Easter now. And so let's put on the socks, let's put the dress and the frills,
The bonnet.
right? The bonnet, right? Get that great picture, right?
That's right.
And that just was something that was at its core. But you're so right in how we just take that with us, and as you mentioned, those higher levels of education and
Yes.
getting in those spaces, and being afraid to like admit when you're wrong or admit when you don't know something.
Yes. Yes. And one of the things too that I think about is the black tax. You know, for those of you who are not familiar with the black tax, if you grew up in a black household, you were always told what, Nana? You had to be twice as good to be
That's
what, half
half.
considered,
Yep, absolutely.
and on this journey, like my daughter, she's 17, about to be 18 next month, and she's
Okay.
writing a paper about the black middle and upper class and how class was just determined amongst Black folks post Civil War. So during the Reconstruction period.
Ooh.
It is so interesting because my minor in for my undergraduate was Afro Am.
Okay.
And when
Okay.
you think about, okay, where how we are, I am such a big proponent and believer that who we show up to be as a people, as individuals in 2023 are all vestiges and just an aggregation of experiences of our histories. Like I know you're Ghanaian, right? So
Yes.
that shows up in your family, how your family trained you both mentally, socially.
Absolutely.
Like my mom and dad taught me growing up, you don't show up at somebody's house for the first time with nothing in your hand.
Oh,
Right? You
yes.
don't just roll and then
Same.
take a plate. We can that's a
Same.
conversation.
Same. 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 Who else said the same? Who else said the same? Drop it in the comments. Same.
Right.
Hand raised.
It's just like, so there's certain vestiges of our identities that travel with us, whether we realize it or not. We picked up things
Yeah.
along the way,
Yeah.
so are we continuing to try and assimilate? Are we continuing to try and be something that we're not? And in that process, we're losing our own authenticity and
Mm-hmm.
watering down who we are to fit into a box we were never designed to fit into. I was watching Uncensored the other day, and I caught an
Okay.
episode with Keisha Knight Pulliam. And I was trying
Mm.
to get this right. She said, "Why you are a unique, priceless original? Why
Wow.
are you trying to be a worthless copy?"
Not the worthless part.
The word I had
Whoa.
to pause it, and thank God for
Whoa.
TV. I had to rewind it and listen to that several times. Because I said, who are we around? What environments are we in? Who are we spending time with that's
Mm-hmm.
causing us to water ourselves down to be copies of something, someone, whatever we were never
Right.
designed to be?
Listen. The chat done popped up. A lot. Ayana, same. Chris Cynthia, same. Keisha, same. Right? Hey, Portia. Like it is so real, and it's so much a part of the experience of Black women.
Yes.
And Ayana touched on that notion of having to be perfect always, and how you look. There's so much
Yes.
pressure, right? How you look, how you act, how you speak.
Yes.
Like it's too much, and it really doesn't even exist, right? Like this
Right.
whole notion of perfectionism, it doesn't exist, right? And I think, like, and you were mentioning in that reflection piece,
Mhm.
right, a kind of, coming to Jesus moment, if you
Yes.
will, and
Yes.
understanding that it
Yes.
that it doesn't. And it's so interesting, in even, obviously in the style space that I'm in. I constantly
Yes.
have clients that will come and will say, I just want to have effortless style. I just want to be, I want to be well put together. And, we say those things, to your point, the conditioning, things
Yes.
we've heard, right? Our upbringing,
Yes.
our mamas,
Yes.
our grandmothers, our aunties, who are always like, you need to present yourself in a certain way.
Right.
And you're right. It's such
Yes.
it's such a trip, in that part of that certain way is not authentic to who you are.
Yep.
And so then I feel like there's this conflict that could happen
Yes.
internally between, like, well, can I be authentic? Because
Yes.
if I'm authentic, then I'm not showing the perfect
Yes.
side. So is
Yes.
that gonna resonate at work, at home, etc.?
All of the above. All of the above. And I found, working with one of my business partner in the ed tech, shout out Tony if you're there, we were talking one day and she was like, Anika, why can't all of these identities, wife, mother, psychologist, why do they have to be in like silos? Why are they not
Mm.
all, why don't you bring them together? Because in essence, and I was journaling about this, that's another thing that I would say about breaking the perfection myth for me, was I spend time, and I know that it is difficult, ladies and whomever is listening, to get that quiet time. I'm not going to say do an hour. I'm not going to say do, 3. I'm not saying that. Find your rhythm. Find quiet time where you could just journal and get those thoughts out of your head. A great book that I read in the last, well, I listened to on Audible maybe about 2 months ago, Nana, was
Mm.
From the Gap to the Game, From the Gap to the Game. And
From
it
the from
was,
the gap. I'm about to put that in the chat.
yes,
From the
From the
gap
Gap to the Game.
to the
And I can
game.
pull that up, and just y'all, we can just put it in the notes later on. Like at the end, I can put it in there.
Oh,
But it
perfect.
talks about if you're a high achiever, how, like, Nana, I've been working, not working on my doctorate for 30 years, but it's a goal that I've had since I was 16, going to Brooklyn Tech, you
Yes,
know.
come on, Brooklyn Tech.
Yeah, and
Hey.
it was like something that I wanted to do. And when I got it, several years ago, it's like, well, what do I do now? Or when I didn't even sit with the fact that while
Mm.
I was a working mom, wife, working a job, raising a child, married to a husband, I did this feat. And it was like, ooh, let's go to the next thing. Can we just sit? Can we just be? And the book talks about, for us, because as Black women, I believe we're always constantly told, you're not good enough. You got to do more. You're not doing enough. And if you
Yes.
did this and this, that wouldn't have happened. You got to take care of mama and daddy. You got to take care of the kids. You're all over,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So
mm.
I had that book really helped me, because it helped me understand there's nothing wrong with being a high achiever, because we're often told change your identity.
Mm. This is like the levels. I got goosebumps, and all I can do is hand movements right now.
Just change.
Wow.
So change
Yes.
your identity so you can fit in. Hence all of what I was talking about, like assimilation and everything like that.
Yeah.
Change who you are. Our names were stripped, right? Our identities were stripped. You look at African Americans, and there's this great book. I love books. My
Come
family and I
on,
have
drop
books
the books.
everywhere.
Yes.
The Myth of the Negro Past, Melville Herskovitz. That's a book I read over 30 years ago in college. I just called myself out, but it's all good because I'm proud of my age. I'm proud
That's
of my
right.
age. And it
That's
talks
right.
about vestiges of African culture amongst Africans or
Mm-hmm.
descendants of people of African descent across the diaspora. And Black Americans are the least African. Now, this, granted, like I said, I read the book 30 years ago. It was, I think, from the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
But how we talk, how we've been socialized,
Yes.
the colorism, the lighter, the better.
Ooh,
And that exists throughout the diaspora. You go to Brazil, you go to the
absolutely.
islands, it's the same thing, right?
Yep.
I
Hands
say that
down.
to say the more we shun our identity, the more we're going to be stuck.
Mm.
Take stock of who you are, where you are, embrace it, and go forward.
Now you know I gotta put this up.
Mhm.
Mm. The more we shun our identity, the more we will be stuck.
Stuck. Mhm.
Um, I'm just gonna pop in the chat because I'm just soaking in and still processing so much of what you shared. But
Mhm.
I want to read what
Yes.
Ayana commented on. She's just saying, really loving this conversation. When we
Mhm.
think about the quote unquote perfect way, it is what that looks like to our parents, grandparents, etc. Now we are in this era of defining what that perfect way looks like for us. And the reality is, leaning into authenticity and giving ourselves that permission to show up is the way that works for us and serves us.
Yes. Ayana, yes, I was raised, again, parents coming from the South,
Right.
it was go to school, get a good education.
Yep.
Don't talk about having your own business. It is go to school, get a good education.
Nope. Nope.
When I met my husband, his
Mhm.
grandpa, now my husband's from the deep South,
Okay.
Albany, Georgia, not Albany.
Oh,
Albany.
baby.
Yes. And that's, if I don't say it that way, my mother-in-law will say, Anika, let me help you. Daughter, let me
Right.
help you.
Let me
You
help
know,
you. I
let
can't.
me help you. And his grandfather was a farmer. Because think about, he was born in 1929. My grandfather will be 96 this year.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
And he tells this story, and the kids tell this story back in the 60s. So think back to, like, in the 60s, I think it was with the civil rights. I don't want to say it's Brown versus Board of Education, but when they made the law that all children had to go to school, it
Uh-huh.
was 9 of them. They were working in the fields. So the next day, the white man came, told
Mm.
them to get on the truck so he could take them to their fields for the day to work. He said, no, y'all get off that truck. Y'all going to school today, right? So he was an
Mm.
entrepreneur with his own farming business. He raised my father-in-law to be a farmer. My husband was
Wow.
like, y'all, I ain't doing this. I'm gonna be an engineer. My
He
husband
found
said,
out.
no
He found
way.
out on the farmer. Right.
And I say that to say, Ayana, my husband grew up with an entrepreneurial spirit. So when we met, I was like, no, you go to school, get a good job. My husband had a college degree and everything like that. But it was like, oh, no. So when I went on this journey that I felt I was being called out of corporate to be on, I struggled because it was like, this is not the mirror that was held up for me. It was go to school, get a good job, work for somebody else your whole life. And I'm not saying for those of you who work a full-time job, go run and quit
Right.
your job. Because Nana, I think a lot of
Right.
folks here that we're saying, oh, it's wonderful and it's great out here. We got to pave these streets and pound
But
the
listen,
pavement every
tell
day.
them, let them know.
Yeah. So I'm not suggesting that you run off and find your job, but what is this mirror that was held up for us? And does it still work? So amen, Ayana. Amen.
Yes. I mean, it's so good morning, Senior. Um, the identities piece
Yeah.
is like where I'm sitting in so much right now. Because just even in how you're breaking things down, we're getting a glimpse into all the elements of your identities,
Yes.
right? From the knowledge in the psychology space,
Yes.
the knowledge of African American history
Yes.
space, right? Education space, just your overall lived experience as a Black woman, right? There's mother, wife, all of
All
the
of it.
things,
All
right?
of it.
And there's, we get so much pressure, right? Like we talked about that pressure cooker
Mhm.
around the multiple identities, how to embrace them, when to embrace them, what this one looks like in the other one. And
Mhm.
you mentioned that you had some challenges along the way. Talk to me a little bit about even how you navigated those different identities, and even maybe even especially in the workplace environment, because I'm
Mhm.
curious as you grew in your leadership, because you
Yes.
COO,
Mhm.
co-founder, you have your
Mhm.
own consultancy, right? How did you navigate having these different identities and still feel like I can bring them all to the table and not restrict yourself or fall into the limiting belief cycle of, well, no, I'm supposed to be this perfect example of myself, and there's this box, and this is Anika, this one. All
Yes.
these other skills and talent, I don't know about them. So
Mhm.
how did you navigate some of that?
Yeah. So it is, I'm going to say I'm still on that journey, Nana. I'd be lying to you if I say I've arrived, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to start with giving myself permission to take up space. You know how the expression man spread, and like man code, where,
Yeah.
they don't sit always in the chair next to each other but ladies will be all like, oh, y'all sit next to me.
I love it.
I had to learn that I had something to bring to the table that wasn't educated based, because what I found was when I got the degrees, they were great.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
As you can tell, I love education, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I love learning and sharing, but I thought it was going to be, okay, now okay. And it was like, it didn't fill that hole. So I had to go on
Mm-hmm.
this journey. I was still working in corporate, just to kind of back up some. So I was in corporate, gosh, what, 20 some odd years. 23, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's about 23 years. And
Mm-hmm.
I would show up as the Anika you're seeing. And, Nana, you and I, we've had the opportunity to work behind the scenes. Nana knows I'm very organized.
Yep.
I'm very like, do, 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 do,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
and it was, Anika, you're too much. Your coworkers are threatened by you. Why? Because I bring a pad and paper to the table. And I'm one where I feel like when I speak, years ago, you remember the commercials when E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens, like those commercials?
Yes.
I'm one of those types that I don't talk unless I have something I feel that's going to add value. Because I have my own saying, he who talks the most knows the least. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're ever in those meetings and you got so and so in the corner just like, and you're like,
Uh, y'all, come on,
that's
listen.
wrong.
So, some of y'all listening right now, and the meeting's going on just like that, and that's why you listening over
Right.
here.
That's why you over here, because you're like, where are you going to get value?
Yep.
So as I was in those spaces, I found they began to wear on me. And it was like, okay, something's not right here because I'm being told not to show up as my full self, although I didn't know that, Nana, at the time.
Right.
So when
Right.
I came out of those environments, connecting with women like you, and I'm not blowing smoke, women like you, listening to Nikisha Hicks, listening to Janine, Portia, all of these women
Yeah.
who are in, that have a, voice on or making space for themselves. It's
Mhm.
like, wait, they're like, show up and ask for what I want. I matter. Wear the red lipstick, wear bright colors, don't fade in the back, raise your
Right.
the
Right.
community
Wow.
I felt gave me permission. And by me stepping out of corporate and saying, I was making good money.
Listen, don't even whisper it. We
Right.
know. Go
I
ahead.
was making good money.
There
I'm
you
saying,
go.
and I walked away. People like, how can you walk away? But then I had people coming to me, Anika, so tell me what you're doing because I really want to do it too. And you're brave because you're doing it. So I had to flip the narrative because I thought people were my haters. And not that I'm saying get stuck on what people are saying, but I had to realize there were more people cheering for me and like, this woman is a bad A woman. She walked away from this,
Mm.
from title, from this, and this. And she's out here in these streets, organizational streets, doing it. Who goes from 20 some odd years of banking now to ed tech? And it's the grace of God. I'm gonna say that it's not me.
Absolutely.
It's the grace of God.
Absolutely.
However, being open to reinventing myself and step into my calling. It's a hard journey, y'all. It's a heavy lift,
Mm.
but it's
Mm.
worth the journey for me.
Mm. That being open to reinventing yourself and stepping into your calling. Listen, y'all know this about to go up on the screen because you need to have that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Um, wow. I mean, the choir, the chat is speaking and praising.
Mm-hmm.
It's man, I'm thinking so much
Mm-hmm.
um just in that space of you, like you mentioned, this journey still keeps
Yes.
going, right? Like you're still
Yes.
you're still on it,
Yes.
right? And being able to have these spaces where you can connect with the like-minded women
Yes.
to give you the other side. Because when you talked about being in the workplace and people coming at you talking about you team too much,
Right.
if anybody has ever heard you are too much, drop too much in the chat, please. Drop the too much in the chat, okay?
I'm raising both
Okay, that's
hands.
a constant narrative that Black women will receive. Will receive. That's masked in all kinds of isms.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right? And then you have to, and then because we are people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we are feeling people, we got to take that in. We got.
Yes.
It's not gonna be every time that we like. No, whatever. I'm coming
Right.
to the table.
Right.
Sometimes you're like, shoot, well, am I too much?
Yes. Tell
Am
the
I doing
truth.
the most?
Tell the truth.
Like, can I do this?
Yes.
Like, well, maybe I am. Maybe I still feel like I got to be a certain way. And
Yes.
so I'm doing all of these things that are seen as extra. But to me, that's just what mom and daddy said.
Yes.
That's what just what auntie and uncle said. That's just what my community says. Like, I'm
Mhm.
supposed to be this way.
Yeah.
But to somebody else, it's like you doing the most. She's like, wait, what? I'm
Right.
confused.
Right.
So which one is it? What am I supposed to do? That's why I think I love
Mhm.
so much what you're saying about being open to reinventing yourself and
Mhm.
stepping into your calling. Listen, Ayana said she ain't never too much, just too much for you. Come on. I
And
love the
yes,
refrain.
Ayana, and that's what I had to realize because I was as a strategist, it's like you're part visionary. And one of the things, so over life, you try different things. And at
Right.
one point I was a licensed real estate, like in 2007, I got my real estate license.
Okay, cool.
And so I love real estate. That's another aspect of what I do.
Uh-huh.
And it was when you see a lot, like a lot of land with trees,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you have to envision, okay, the house is going to sit like this, the setback, like how far it is from the street, the
Yeah.
bathroom's going to be here. Even when you see a house like with studs, I like to watch a lot of HGTV. You
Yep.
have to be able to envision
Yeah.
what it's going to look like, the end product will look like. And
Yeah.
many people, if they can't see that, and a visionary doesn't do a good job of painting that picture, Ayana, it's exactly what you said. They don't see the vision. If you can't
Yes.
communicate it well, they're not on the journey with you. And so, and
Mm-hmm.
even if they are, they're like, oh, they're intimidated. I had to realize, and sisters listening, I had to realize when people read my resume, people, they're like, I don't even have to say anything.
That's right.
They're just like, and
Yep.
I'm like, hey, I want you to know me.
Yeah.
I have my challenges. And one of the things I always say is, Nana, I feel like I love the fact that I have my doctorate. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been one of the loneliest things speaking on perfection, because now
Mm.
people expect me to show up a certain way where it's just like, no, I'm just Anika. Sometimes my subject verb agreement doesn't match.
Mm.
Sometimes I don't feel like being prim and proper. And the more I lean into this identity, you know how I literally one day I was having an experience, not like, a breakdown or anything like that. And I'm not suggesting that that's bad. It was just, I was thinking and reflecting. And you know how you have like a porcelain mask?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
felt like the mask was chipping, but it
Mm.
wasn't chipping perfectly. It was chipping, your piece chips here and a piece chips.
Yes.
And literally I
Yes.
felt it falling off, and in
Yeah.
a good way. And it was exposing me. And I'm realizing there's this other me. So this may sound really existential. So I'm not trying to sound deep, but I know many of you have had it where it's like there's this other version, or this newer, better version of me that's like, come on, Anika, come on.
Mm.
You're
Mm-hmm.
going to love who you are when you
Mm-hmm.
embrace who you are, because we're really the same. I'm just you.
Yeah.
That may sound weird. Y'all can tell me in the chat if
That
that's weird.
no. Listen, drop agree in the chat, and you
Yeah.
know exactly what she's talking about, because
Yeah.
I sure do.
Okay,
I
good,
sure
good, good,
do.
good. Mhm.
100% have
Yeah,
had that conversation with future Nana, or
yeah,
even
yes,
sometimes it's even like, when you're talking with yourself through, you might
yes,
be going through a challenging
yes,
situation. It's just like you got to connect with the version of you that's just on the other side
yes,
of the
yes,
situation, right?
yes,
Like,
yes,
it might not be 20 years into the future, but you like, if I could just get through this rough patch right now, okay, I got to talk to my future self. Okay. Let the people are here for it. Okay.
yes,
Not weird
yes.
at all. 100% agree. Love the real talk. Agreed, agreed, agreed. Hey, Tiffany. Hey, Letitia.
Mhm,
And I see you, LinkedIn user. Sorry, I can't see your name, but I
mhm.
appreciate you being here and loving this conversation.
Yeah,
Um, oh my gosh, so real.
yeah,
And I think that's the thing, like, is the real talk.
yes.
And we're so fortunate, because just even, and listen, y'all, Anika and I met on these LinkedIn streets.
We sure did.
Like, let me just, just in case you might be like, oh, they must be
Yes,
friends, or they done
mhm.
known each other for a long
We
time.
are now.
Okay, we friends, all right, and we literally met on
Mhm,
LinkedIn.
mhm.
I don't know, maybe it's been a year now or
Yes,
something,
yes,
probably
somewhere in
probably
there.
been about somewhere
Mhm,
in
mhm.
there. And just like Anika was saying, being open to new experiences, being open to different versions of yourself, being open, like, you just never know who's going to come in
Yes,
that you will be able to share and have these kind of real talk conversations, because you need it. You need the
we
person who's
do.
going to listen as you talk about the mask,
Yes.
literally the physical manifestation of what we talking about, y'all, right?
Mm,
Y'all, I know y'all saw it. Like,
mm.
I saw it as
Yeah,
Anika was describing it. I saw it fully, right? Just that mask of perception, and how it just crack it, like, just how you got to start cracking away
yeah,
at it.
yeah.
um I mean, that was so visceral for me. Like, I
Good.
was like, 100%. And like you said, sometimes it don't go, it doesn't, it might go away fully. It might come back in different forms, right? Like, it's never all or nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
I think you have to find the space in which you feel comfortable with it. But I mean, that
that's
that
it.
That hit me to the
Good, good.
core.
Think, think,
uh,
think about the mask, ladies, that you're wearing. It's all of the expectations. What's the expression like? It's like Black women. What is it? We have to carry so much. It's like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders.
yeah.
And the expectations are a lot. And sometimes we have to manage those expectations. Sometimes we can shake them off. My
Hmm.
husband and I were talking, I think yesterday or today. To me, we still have challenges in our world, in our country. But when we think about what our parents and grandparents had to go through, like somebody said, where was the mental health after slavery when the slaves were freed? That wasn't a
Please.
thing then.
No, it was not.
It wasn't a thing. So we have these spaces and we can make space for other Black. This is another thing. Black women supporting Black women. I can message
Yeah.
Nana, Portia, Janine, and say, hey, this happened to me. And they're like, yay! Versus she thinks she's all that because she did
Dallas.
it. There's none of that. And that's one of the things that I found, like, on this journey you were talking about with perfection, is surrounding myself with other women who look like me, because that was important to me.
Mm,
Because on this road that I'm on, I had never met Anana Badu face to face, somebody who could help me with
mm,
style, help me with, what that looks like. I only could flip through magazines and the women didn't look like me, right? So being able to say, hey, Portia, what's some practical things that I can do? Having these resources, a lot of other cultures and ethnicities, they have folks in their circles.
right.
So we're paving roads, ladies, think about Sojourner Truth, think about Harriet Tubman, think about even like Barack and Michelle Obama. They're having to cut through forests that have not been, there's no roadmap or take a left here. We are the first.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
hard. It's okay. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge
Mm,
it and go forward.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And that being the first,
Yeah.
that being the first. But Portia said that Black woman ecosystem be ecosysteming.
Yes, it's so true. It is
It
so, so true. And it's just like we really are here. There are good ones. Be scrutinizing about your circle. Be scrutinizing. Everybody just doesn't need to be up in your circle. Be scrutinizing. Test people. And that doesn't mean play games with them. Are they consistent? Do they do what they say they're going to do? Are they where you're trying to be? Meaning that they can give you information and advice that will help you. If you message Nana or me after this, we will respond to you and
is.
say, hey, yeah, sure. Anika, what's the name of that book? Anika, what did you, if you want to hop on a Zoom and say, hey, I do mentoring with women of color at Georgia State University. Shout out to the Women
Mm,
Lead Crew, you know,
nice.
because it's so important to have somebody who's perhaps where you're trying to be, or you're like, Anika, I want to start this journey. This journey, y'all, is hard work. I'm going to be honest
I
with
know.
you,
Yeah.
because you're looking at yourself not to scrutinize the flaws, but to say, I had an opportunity there. I could have done better, but now when that opportunity comes up next time, I can handle it differently. We
Mm-hmm.
look back a lot, Nana, and be like, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, had I, if I, stop, stop,
Ooh.
stop.
I'm just gonna let the pause sit on that with the stop. With the shoulda, the wouldas, the couldas, the looking back. If you know that's a space you need to stop, put stop in the chat. Okay. Let this be a moment of declaration for you if you know that you need to stop some of these limiting beliefs and some of these limiting actions and habits that you have. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
All right. Tiffany is here for it. She said she's working on that now, building a circle of women where I want to go for support. Absolutely.
Excellent.
You know?
Check out these lives, because they're Nana's lives Wednesday at 9 a.m. Girl, Tiffany, you gonna get your life. You gonna get your life with these folks that are on here. Because I remember, I think it was Heather Dowdy. I put something in the comments, and she said, "Girl, you were sleeping on you." That will stick with me, Heather. I don't know if you're listening. That will stick with me for life, because
Wow.
I'm not going to sleep on me. I'm going to take a chance on me.
Mm.
I'm going to trust my abilities. I'm going to trust the God who put them in me. I'm going to reach out for help. Black women, sometimes we don't reach out for help, you know, like,
Woo.
hey, Nana, can you help me for whatever reason? Because we
Yeah.
want to have that appearance of, girl, no, I got it. No, I got
Ah,
it. You don't have it. It's okay not to have it.
girl, Talisa, you about to get me out my state this morning. Oh my gosh.
Yes, yes,
Tell
yes.
it, Anika. Tell it.
And
Okay.
I'm gonna tell y'all something. When we first got on, Nana and I were talking before we went live. I said, "How do I look?" Because Nana is the expert. So if she would have said, "Nah, girl, take that off," but I would have ran right upstairs and changed. Because respecting each other's
Yes.
expertise. A lot of people think, "Oh, you think you know." I don't think I know it all. I'm not a fashion expert. Nana, does
Yes.
this matter? No, girl, take that off. With the quickness,
With the
it would have been like, you know.
Listen, I love the look. The choir is telling you to keep on preaching, girl. I mean, it's that space like where you have the women that are gonna build you up,
Mhm.
hold you accountable, right? To
Yeah.
tell you the real deal,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Like, and where everybody can be in their genius mode
Yes.
and people are like here for it. They are like,
Yes.
go for it,
Mhm.
do the
Mhm.
thing,
Yeah.
right?
Your shine, like somebody said when I first started getting real active on LinkedIn, somebody said, "I don't have to blow your candle out for mine to shine brighter." And I think that that's, again, it's those vestiges of slavery, I believe, and just, all of what happened with the transatlantic. And I know it may sound really, again, but I really do believe that those impact how we show up, right?
100%.
And how it's like, you ever heard the expression crabs in a pot?
Oh
So,
yeah, yep,
you know,
yep.
let
That
me
crabs in a
let me
barrel. Mm-hmm.
let me tear you down on the post, because then that way people will see how smart or how one. No, why
Yes.
can't? So I think we're all trying to find these spaces, Tiffany, I think, to your point, where we can be around other women, Black women, women of
Yes.
color, if you're Latina,
Yes.
wherever you are, where it's like, I feel accepted, I feel like I belong, and that I matter, and I'm not tolerated, I'm celebrated.
Celebrated. Celebrated.
Yeah.
This is so good. And it's so real. And Ayana is bringing up an element that is coming in my mind too around vulnerability,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I heard you talk about that through that sharing and how important that is even to this conversation of breaking that perception perfection space, right? Like that
Yes.
whole need to have it all together.
Yes.
Um, how did that show up for you around vulnerability and even your relationship with it?
Yeah.
I don't know if there was moment where you started feeling like, okay, this is what it looks like for Anika.
One of the things, when you and I talked about this session months ago, I think I said something along the lines of, I'm finally ready to tell my story, because
Mm,
it's multiple parts there. I had to come, Nana, to the realization that I am enough, and that who I am on this journey is my unique walk. I'm not comparing, I'm not running my race. If you ever, like, you look at the Preakness, those events with horses, that's why they have the blinders, so they can focus on their race. Stop
mm,
comparing yourself to other people. Stop looking at, oh, what she has and why she get that contract. Run your race. And
mm-hmm.
not that I was comparing, like, my parents never compared my sisters, and I have 3 sisters. They never were like, "Why don't you do what your sisters?" It was, you run your unique race. So I had to come to a level of acceptance with who I was. That was work. That took work. For
Yeah,
me it did. For you all it might be different. But also just saying, "Okay, here I am." Other women, they want real talk, Nana. You said this a few moments ago. They want real talk. They're tired of if you do this in 3 steps, and if you wear this jacket, you're going to get this energy. Nobody wants that. It's like, girl, I got my doctorate and still felt lonely. Not lonely like I was, but didn't feel like I was enough. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Still, that didn't solve it. We need real talking spaces where we can come into this atmosphere and say, hey, girl, should I wear this? Or, hey, this happened to me. It didn't make me feel that way. And
Mm-hmm.
opening up myself, because I believe the more that I do, the more other people are like, girl, that's me. They can see themselves and get
That's it.
healing for their
That's it.
souls.
That's it. That's it. That's it. You know? Um, Man, I'm just like the ladies are capturing this in the chat. I love it so much. People are feeling that wake up call. Shout out to school days. You know,
Wake
and,
up.
right? It's so real. And like Portia said, I'm not a strong black woman. You can help me. Help
Right,
me.
right,
Okay.
right.
Like let's go. Like how do we normalize that? Right. And I think
Mhm,
there is, like Anika is sharing, I'm hearing that shift and the
yes.
journey away from
Mhm,
what you might once thought perfectionism was or what it should be,
mhm.
and how I agree with you 100%, and
Yeah,
how steeped it is
yes,
in our history through the transatlantic trade, slave trade, and how much that impacts
mhm.
our existence.
Yes,
And we see it, the
yes,
ripple effects, because you can't have that happen for 400 years and not.
and nothing, and nothing. The
And
girl
just
be
be like,
good.
here you good, you good,
No,
y'all
no,
good. It's like,
no,
wait,
no.
no, or even just generationally within your
Yes,
own family, like you were
yes,
sharing,
yes,
right? How
yes.
much and how much of an imprint your grandparents telling you you have to be twice as good as
Mhm.
your counterparts. And oh no, you can't come in here looking all sloppy with them jeans, looking all wrinkled up. No, no, no. You better go put on a great skirt
Right,
and a beautiful blouse, and make sure you iron it and use some
right,
starch.
right,
Like,
right.
all of
And yeah.
these things that
Mhm.
just were part of everyday life for us, but they just
Yes,
planted. And now here we are trying to find our way,
yes,
right? Trying to find
yes,
our way,
yes,
and seeing what that looks like, right? Dr. Michelle says
yes.
this is powerful. When you share your truth, you not only liberate yourself, but others.
Most
100%.
most definitely.
100%.
That's why we need to
Mm.
share. We need these opportunities for exchange because
Mm-hmm.
we understand what it's like when somebody says, "Oh, you're very articulate." Articulate? What? We've all had the whole, like, I remember when I went to college, there one girl, she was Latin American. I can't remember from which country. Another girl was Egyptian. And they told me and another one of my friends from Baltimore, y'all aren't the real
Yeah.
black women, because black people, because y'all don't have big like door knocker earrings. And I was like, what is it, the white in you? Another girl was told, is it the white in you that makes you want to be smart? So when we hear, I know, like, that's
Y'all,
a whole thing. So when we're trying to fight and we're trying to fit in, yeah, I know, right? Can we
look
get,
at
do we want to sit? I don't even want to give that honor and to even sit with foolishness like
that.
that.
Right.
But it's the type of stuff that's coming at us all the time, all the time, all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're trying to do you, live your best life, embrace this identity, but you're constantly being told that that identity is not good enough. It's not proper. It's not, what Letitia said, trying to hold my peace. I
Come
know that's
on.
right.
Come on.
So
Right.
it's like, how do I navigate all of this? I remember going to Cuba in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time. Now I'm proud to be an American because y'all all this. I'm sorry, Nana. I'm just letting the hair down.
Girl, let it down. Let it out. Wash it. We here for
I
it.
just snatch it off, throw it on the floor, right? And it's like, let's just be real. Let's just be
That's
real,
right.
right? So it's like, I remember going, I'm proud to be an American. This is my country. There's no other place for me to go back to. As far as I know, my family's from here, right? So people they get caught up in it. You saying da 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 da. When I went to Cuba, for the first time, I felt like people saw me
Mm.
and didn't see what I look like.
Mm.
My color was not an issue. I felt, and
Yeah.
it was really a
Yeah.
really cool experience. And it's
Yeah.
just like, imagine living in a world where that doesn't exist. And I think conversations like this, until that gets to the point where perhaps it's non-existent, you hear people talk about eradicate racism. I don't know if that'll ever be possible because we're human beings.
Yeah.
Um, but it can be reduced to the point where it doesn't become what motivates us and drives us, where we can
Mm.
step into that full identity, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it is, to that point, it is remarkable for Black people when you enter into countries that are predominantly Black or brown,
Yes.
and nobody cares.
Right.
It just
Right.
people actually probably they call out more your nationality around being American than than you being Black, than you're
Right.
than that. Like
You're
they're
right.
like
You're
they're
right.
like,
You're
girl, we
right.
all Black, like
You're right.
whatever. Like
You're right.
like
You're right.
there's no thing.
You're right. You're right.
So I I I wholeheartedly get that, and that's something, we want everybody to have at least that moment or that experience, because that,
Yes.
to your point, it can inform how you move, in knowing like, no, there's a different reality too that also
Yes.
exists. Okay, let me take
Yes.
that and have that be part of my experience as well.
Yes.
um you dropping so many nuggets. I'm just like, we talked about questions and stuff, but we just flowing.
Yes.
I'm just
We're just
like,
going.
we just
We're just
flowing.
going with it.
And I love how vulnerable you are. I love how honest you are.
Mhm.
Um, and like, kind of in this, right, show up just as your human self, Letitia.
Mhm.
Um, just in this space for you, and you've already shared like community and you being open to different versions of yourself. You've already dropped nuggets around tips and things, because I mean, it is real. Like, people, you could be in a space and be experiencing something right now where you feel that pressure to
Mhm.
be perfect, or
Mhm.
to even be a version of yourself that doesn't feel comfortable to what you really want to be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
um what other guidance,
Yeah.
whether it's, I'll just leave it like that. What other guidance would you offer
Yeah.
to women who are like, I hear you, but
But
I'm scared to do that, because if I do, what's the consequence? Or, well, this is all that I've known, and this is attached to that good paying job that I show up a certain way. Like, what do you say to someone who are like,
yeah. Like,
clenched teeth?
girlfriend, come here.
Right,
Come
girl.
here. Let's talk. So it's a journey, and I'm not saying that to be redundant, because in everybody's journey, that's the beauty of it, everybody's journey is going to look differently. I was in banking in my career, so there was always that. And when I got into banking, it was, you couldn't have tattoos, you couldn't have, the only piercings you could have, were your ears, none of this
Right,
extra and everything else, right?
right.
Tattoos, all that stuff, you had to wear pantyhose, all that stuff, right?
Woo!
Yeah, who
Uh-huh.
does that? That's not, I don't, burn
A
those
lot of
things,
people.
right? Mm.
But keep
So
going.
it's a journey towards slowly stepping. So I would say start with small increments. Like, for example, the first time I met Nana and I was on one of her lives and she was like, red lipstick. I had to grab I said, red lipstick? Who's wearing red lip, doing a red lip? Who, what? That was a lot for me. So, but then I slowly began to experiment and say, okay, let me try this. Then to another point of that is, like you said, just kind of stepping out was, be cognizant of how you feel and what your mind and body are telling you. Because
Mm.
I would show up for things in the last year, I felt obligation. And
Mm.
what I realized about myself was I felt I had to be on,
Yeah.
like, hi, oh my gosh, I'm Anika Davis. How are you? I had to be on. That's exhausting.
Ugh.
That is exhausting. And when I realized I gave my, and when I, so as I began to sense, oh, I don't feel like being on,
Yeah.
I gave myself permission to be on when necessary and off when not necessary. Now, please hear what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying being off, I don't feel like going to work today on time. No, that I'm not saying that.
Right.
What I'm saying is, I know while we're talking, and this feels more like, rather than like, oh my gosh, I have to be on, this is more like we're having a girlfriend chat. We're talking. Y'all are getting into my business, which is fine, and I'm sharing myself, and this is
Yep.
freeing for me, just like somebody said in the chat,
Yep.
but it's also realizing, okay, when I'm done, I'm going to give myself 5-10 minutes where I can just sit.
There it
If
is.
I stare at the TV, if I stare at the wall, I'm just
Yeah.
doing this. So I'm not on, which is highly taxing mentally, physically,
Yeah.
and emotionally. Give
Yeah.
yourself permission to not be on, but still maintain your obligations and
Yeah.
responsibilities and
Mm-hmm.
professionalism.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. I want to get to a question
Yes.
that I don't know if it's Letitia. I've been saying Letitia, but I just realized it may be Letitia. Girl, forgive me. But her question is, how can you break the perfection perception when your minimum is someone else's maximum?
So, yes, amen. I had to, and so one of the things, I'm going to speak at a conference in Spain, and I did some
Hmm.
lives. Anika Speaks last year. And I coordinated with a colleague, Dr. Benefsha Azizi. So Dr. Ben, if you're out there, hey, um, we talked about how organizations have values like vision, mission, and values, or they should.
Mm-hmm.
I work with
Mm-hmm.
orgs that don't have that, that really
Mm-hmm.
have no intention on creating it. Look at their values, right? See where they are. Now you also have your personal values.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's an alignment
Yeah.
or some level of crossover. So let's say they have 5 values. You have, of course, they have more, you have more than 5 values, but there should be some level of alignment. Otherwise, it's incongruent. So you remember
Yeah.
like incongruent triangles and stuff. One side was real big and the other side,
Yes.
there has to be a level of congruency for you to really remain. And I'm not a clinical psychologist, I'm an organizational psychologist. So I can't speak to the clinical nature, but just to answer that question, Letitia, for me, for my mental health and sanity, there needed to be congruence. And I
Mm-hmm.
found that as I continued, like I went and got my master's, brought everything back to the company, built programs and everything, award-winning programs, la la la. And my minimum was their maximum, right?
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't feel good. Okay. And I said, okay, well, I'll just go
Mm-hmm.
back to school, get my doctorate. I remember saying to my boss, I'm just going to go get my doctorate. I'm going to be the same Anika. Girl, after 3 weeks, not even 3 weeks, 2 weeks in class, 1 week, I was like, uh-oh. This incongruence, the space just began to grow. So think about your pond. You know the expression, being a small fish in a big pond. You
Yeah.
might be a big fish in a small pond. You might need to change ponds.
Mm. Hmm.
Anika's not saying run off and leave your job, give your 2 week notice today. I didn't say that. Anika's saying
Mhm.
consider we play small. Like there's an exercise that I do, Nana, when I'm working with folks and we're talking about, they're like, oh, Anika, I'm interested in this job. Okay, let's bring
Mhm.
the job description, whether it's electronic paper. I say highlight in green all of the skill sets that you have that you have.
Mhm.
Yellow is I kind of have, like if they're asking for 5 years of this, maybe I have 2.
Okay.
Red is I don't have it at all.
Yeah.
And we as Black women, if that paper is not green, we're like, I'm not applying for that job.
Tell the story.
But
Please
you got
tell.
Biff over here who doesn't
Woo!
have the experience, the education, the background. His whole paper is red, and he sits right up in the interview posturing. I really feel like I can do this job. Really?
Y'all.
So no. So think about your pond. And
Yeah.
when I began to think about my pond, I wasn't fully utilizing the skills, knowledge skills, and we call them KASOs, knowledge skills, experiences, is knowledge, skills, abilities, or attributes, and
Mhm.
other skills and everything. I
Gotcha.
wasn't using those. And for me, That's what made me tired. That's what exhausted me, because I'm
Mm.
always looking for the next big thing, not in a bad way. Like, oh, I met this goal. Every year I would have my review and it would be, Anika, you're doing such a great job. Top review, top review. Okay, then what are we doing next year? Well, don't you just want to do what you did? No, I don't want to do what I did last year. So
Mm.
that would be my response to that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Y'all, listen. That I know. Letitia asked the question, but I feel like that's a moment for reflection for everybody around what's your pond look like? Because
Mhm.
as you're growing, you will outgrow certain spaces.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with
Mhm.
recognizing that and moving into a new space.
Yeah.
Um, Listen, we could keep it going.
Let's do it.
I was like, we're at 10 o'clock. I said, listen, I said, oh, let me be respectful and
Yes.
honor the time.
Yes.
I think this conversation has been so good. Please tell folks how they can connect with you if they
Yes.
are interested in just being part of community with you, if they're
Yes.
interested in working with you.
Yes.
Tell them how they can get in touch.
Most definitely. So, of course, LinkedIn, that's the hot spot where everybody lives. Feel free to send me a message. If you want to have a virtual coffee, let me know. And then we can start from there. I can send you my Calendly link and all that good stuff like that. The pleasure is absolutely mine. The honor is mine, because I want to leave this conversation with, I don't say if I did it, you could do too. You could do it too, because I don't know you. You met me for, 30, 40 minutes.
Right.
Think about your journey. Think about where it is when you look back. December, forget December, June of
Mm,
this year,
mm.
December, a year from now. What do you want to see? And if you're not willing to go out and do the work that it takes to take those steps forward, you're going to be right where you are. And that's not a condemnation. It's just, have courage. One of the things in my journal that keep coming up: dream bigger, dream braver.
Ooh, hoo, hoo.
Dream bigger, dream braver. So be brave. If you step out and miss it, at least you stepped out. If you misstep and say, oh, I didn't think, at least you did something, sister. You did something to change the trajectory of your future. And if I had an
Mhm.
emoji, I'm going to give you snaps, because you are taking steps to change your destiny. So we could go on and on, but thank you, Nana, for having me. I
So
love you, love you,
good.
love
So
you. Thank
good. I
you.
love you, sis. A shout out to everybody that joined
Yes.
us. Portia, Letitia, Ayana, Tiffany, and Banafshe. I think it's
Dr. Bana.
Banafshe. Dr. Banafshe. So sorry she
Mhm.
got to the call late. That is okay.
Yeah.
Hit that rewind, catch the replay.
Yes.
You will not be disappointed. Dr. Anika Davis, everybody.
Yay! None of I do. Look, let me go this way because you're on this side of me. I don't know which side I am on you,
Right,
but
right. It's like
thank you.
seriously.
Thank you, sis, for
Thank you.
providing this space for
Absolutely.
us to talk. And we definitely need to do more of this.
Absolutely. A
We
hundred
need to do
percent. A
more of
hundred
this. So,
percent. Thank y'all. And look, before we even say our official hop off, I would not be who I am if I did not share with you all that I am doing a webinar tomorrow night called Conversation Starting Style. So if you know that you are in a space where you want to show up this spring, this season, and like Anika said, put some of that need to feel perfect on the side and step into all of the different facets of your identity and do it in a way that's going to attract everything that you desire. If that's something that you're interested in, I'm going to drop a link in the chat to the webinar. Join me tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Would be happy to have y'all there. So, on that note, thank you again, Anika, for
thank you.
blessing the people. The chat is clapping. I feel the standing
Yay.
ovation. Thanks, Michelle, for joining as well. And let's go, y'all. Have a
Let's do it.
fabulous Wednesday. We're rooting for you. All right. Bye.
Bye.